The war in Ukraine, raging since February 2022, has drained both Ukraine's and Russia's economic reserves, forcing each side to commit every available resource to the conflict. Despite these efforts, the Russian military finds its arsenal woefully inadequate. With armored vehicles dwindling, Russia initially turned Soviet-era cars to transport troops into battle. When even these proved insufficient, they adopted more desperate measures. In a stunning display of improvisation, Russian army personnel are now seen storming enemy trenches, not in heavily armored vehicles, but in Beijing-manufactured Desertcross 1003 all-terrain vehicles, machines that more closely resemble golf carts. These vehicles offer no armor, no machine guns, and no protection. Yet, they drive directly into enemy lines in a desperate bid to bridge the gap between them and Ukrainian forces. This unconventional tactic has been met with global ridicule, even from military analysts. In a twist of irony, Ukrainian forces have also been spotted using these identical vehicles. The real question now looms large. What will happen when both sides exhaust their effective war assets? Will they be driven to even more drastic measures? Footage of the unique-looking Chinese-made golf carts employed by the Russian military emerged for the first time in March 2024. The video, shown by several Eastern European media outlets, was accompanied by the Ukrainian words, quote, "Russian cosmonauts are training in the Zaporizhzhia direction." This phrase implies the grim fate awarded the Russian troopers manning the vehicle. According to Militarny, a Ukrainian military media outlet, this Beijing-manufactured Desertcross 1003 all-terrain vehicle had been spotted by Ukrainian intelligence since the last month of 2023, but this marked the first occasion the golf carts were captured live. Militarny also detailed that Russia already employs over 500 golf carts in Ukraine out of a pool of 1,600 vehicles the military purchased from China. Besides these comments, the video published online shows the Chinese-made Russian buggy making its way through the mined territories of Zaporizhzhia before being blown up by an anti-tank mine. Given the lack of underarmor on these vehicles, it's probable the fate of these Russian troops was sealed the moment the mine detonated. However, this has not been their first combat use. Later in the month, the 60th Separate Mechanized Inhulets Brigade, a brigade of the Ukrainian ground forces, released another video of Russian forces attacking Liman in the Donetsk region. Unexpectedly, the large-scale assault was spearheaded by none other than a batch of Desertcross 1003 vehicles carrying Russian soldiers into battle. The Ukrainian forces managed to repulse the 3 Russian waves employing lethal precision, with Ukrainian drones bearing witness to the obliteration of the Russian golf carts. A statement from the brigade leader explained, quote, "The Russians used tanks, infantry fighting vehicles, manpower, and even Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu's Chinese golf carts, which he presented to President Vladimir Putin as a new development in his defense industry." Based on intelligence and prisoners captured, the reckless attack, spearheaded by the Chinese golf carts, was part of the Russian 488th Motor Rifle Regiment. Analysts quickly noted that this attack reflects the desperation of Russian commanders to make breakthroughs. Despite having several T-90 main battle tanks and other MTLB armored tractors in their arsenal, the Desertcross 1003 ATVs made the bulk of the attack. As the video clearly shows, these vehicles are better suited for construction or farm work, not military use. They can only serve for carrying supplies and wounded away from direct combat zones, not live combat scenarios. A Ukrainian officer detailed, "This happens when your regiment lacks any other means of transporting infantry into battle." Global agencies have stated that the 500,000-strong Russian military presence in Ukraine has lost over 500 tanks and armored vehicles since the war began in February 2022. Other inside sources have also noted the Russian industry has been struggling to produce more than 400 BMP infantry vehicles and over 90 T-72 and T-90 tanks a year. This has forced Russia to employ ex-Soviet vehicles, leftovers from the Cold War. With newer vehicles taking longer to arrive in the war-torn countryside, the urgency for a solution escalated among the Russian military. With the current loss rate, Russia will probably run out of armored vehicles in the upcoming year and a half, forcing the military to resort to an unconventional solution: purchase all these Chinese-made vehicles to provide its infantry with at least some mobility over the battlefield. On Ukraine's unforgiving front lines, the battlefield has devolved into a relentless war of tree lines, fiercely defended by entrenched infantry. The vast open fields between these fortifications are harrowing gauntlets where crossing often means courting disaster. In this arena, vehicles that can safely deliver assault infantry close to the enemy lines are a precious commodity for Russian and Ukrainian forces alike. Yet, as Russia's once massive reserves of Soviet-era armored vehicles dwindled, second-line Russian units resorted to makeshift solutions, using whatever means to press their assaults. Enter the Desertcross 1003, a 4x4 all-terrain vehicle that resembles a humble golf cart, manufactured by the Chinese company Auto. Despite its unassuming appearance and lack of armor, this improvised transport has become essential in Russia's desperate attempts to sustain its offensive operations. In Russian defense, ATVs, despite their modest appearance, have found sensible military applications. Behind the front lines, these nimble vehicles excel in transporting equipment, supplies, and personnel through rugged terrains where traditional cars falter. Yet, their utility does not end there. In more daring scenarios, ATVs are employed as mobile shoot-and-scoot platforms for long-range heavy weapons, or to patrol rear areas against enemy infiltration, embracing the high-risk nature of modern warfare. On the Ukrainian side, special forces have also been spotted, harnessing the agility of dune buggy Ranger 4x4 ATVs and the larger Razor MRZR vehicles manufactured by American company Polaris. These versatile machines play crucial roles in reconnaissance missions and the insertion of special operations forces, demonstrating their value in stealth and speed. Nonetheless, these uses highly contrast with those of Russian military personnel. So far, no Ukrainian troops have been seen storming enemy lines aboard these open-top light vehicles that lack any armor. On November 10, 2023, Russian President Vladimir Putin took a direct interest in the Chinese Desertcross ATVs, inspecting the vehicles and awarding his explicit endorsement for Russian military purchase. This event underscored the strategic importance these all-terrain vehicles have assumed within the Russian military apparatus. Each Desertcross was procured at a unit price of 1.58 million rubles, equivalent to $17,141, while the cost for upgraded variants rose to 2.1 million rubles, or $22,782. As mentioned before, the decision to deploy these vehicles, despite their complex use in frontline assaults, highlights Russia's desperation and adaptive strategies amid dwindling armored vehicle reserves. These Chinese-made ATVs, initially designed for civilian and recreational use, have been repurposed to meet the urgent needs of Russian forces. Interestingly, Desertcross is available in the United States at slightly higher prices, ranging up to $20,000, reflecting market differences and possibly the enhancements or customizations made for the U.S. market. Despite their high-risk deployment roles, the procurement of these vehicles in such significant quantities reveals a critical aspect of Russia's current military strategy and the lengths to which it will go to sustain its offensive capabilities in Ukraine. As Putin examined these vehicles, it was clear that the Kremlin was willing to endorse and employ unconventional solutions in response to the relentless demands of the ongoing conflict. This move signals a shift in military tactics and poses questions about the future trajectory of warfare logistics and the evolving landscape of modern combat. The Desertcross models purchased by Russia weigh over 3,500 pounds and have a maximum payload capacity of around 1,200 pounds. These vehicles can seat 3 passengers in addition to the driver, or can tow a 1-ton payload. An 85-horsepower engine allows the vehicle to reach a top speed of over 50 miles per hour on the road, while a 12.7-gallon fuel tank provides a range of 155 miles, making them highly versatile for various operations. These ATVs are designed for optimal all-terrain performance, with electrically powered steering and hydraulic disc-type brakes. Special equipment comprises straps to secure 2 patients on stretchers for casualty evacuation operations and a winch for towing trailers, enhancing their utility in combat and support roles. For battlefield use, these Desertcrosses have been adapted for more aggressive military applications. They've been spotted with PKM 7.62mm medium machine guns mounted on their hoods. Additionally, some units have installed NSV or Cord 12.7mm heavy machine guns and AGS 17 30mm automatic grenade launchers on the flatbed, transforming these civilian-style vehicles into mobile weapon platforms. Due to the increased casualties of the ATVs at the hands of Ukrainian drone operators, Some of the vehicles had been modified with anti-drone cages or nests to fend off the ordnance dropped by the hostile drones. Overall, the decision to employ these vehicles, despite their apparent vulnerabilities, highlights Russia's strategic adaptations amid a diminishing inventory of traditional armored cars. Only time will tell if they prove their worth in combat or lead to an increased number of Russian casualties in the ongoing war against the Ukrainian armed forces.